Welcome to this program. I hope you really enjoy it. I am lucky that I do in-depth reports on people, and so I had a lot of information and hope that you will find every little bit of it interesting. So you may or may not know, do something called meditative writing, where I sit in meditation and I write down what I hear. And I was concerned about this program because I didn't know how to pull it all together. I was looking for overarching themes and stuff like that that would give context. And so I'm going to read you what came out in meditative writing, because the lower me couldn't possibly say it any better than the higher me did. And so it's not very long, but it'll be good context for this program. So it says, let the heart lead the program by saying what a privilege and joy it is to be part of the ascent into altered and higher states of consciousness. What happens in the minds of meditation is unlimited in scope, especially in those who meditate regularly and have experienced expansions and insights before. When the mind is willing and the heart is open, the spirit soars, which words I've used very often, and I'm sure you will agree with. It goes on to say, always there is evidence of the ascent of consciousness into the deeper and higher self, not only in their experiences, which are paramount, but also in brainwave changes. We are able very often to pinpoint shifts in awareness that involve gamma wave production. But in many people, the shift is into coherence and no gamma, or very small amounts of gamma, and those can and do have very big effects, as you're going to see. So what you're going to look at in this program are the big effects of small amounts of gamma, and how all major shifts in consciousness involve the three patterns that we typically look at, sometimes in lower frequencies, sometimes in higher frequencies, all the way up to 100 hertz, and that's the awakened mind, evolved mind, and gamma synchrony. And what you will see both in patterns shown from the Monroe Institute, which I call TMI for short, with supportive gamma beats, as well as patterns from a recent 10-day training in Melbourne, Australia, is that meditators and even non-meditators who do creative spiritual work are able to access information from their subconscious and unconscious minds that put them in touch with something greater than, something superconscious that enables them to be more superconscious than they were before. For most, if not all of them, the effects of this connection to the superconscious is cumulative and lasting. It stimulates psychic awareness and the realization that we are not alone. We are part of an infinite mind that is who we really are. And so for me, this meditative writing, written after a meditation of tremendous expansion and light and love, is evidence of that. And I hope this program and your own experiences, because of course you've had them too, will be evidentiary for you as well. I wonder if Jim Lewis is with us yet. I think he is. Yes, he is going to join us. So Jim, I'm going to start by showing your brainwaves because I have your permission to do so. And if you want to unmute, then as I show your brainwave patterns, then we can maybe have some comments from you. At this Superconscious Mind program, we had the wonderful benefit of being able to have meditations, and they were meditations that I composed for the program. It was my program. We had them playing through people's headphones, and people were lying in anti-gravity chairs. We monitors, and there were 5 of us at this program of 19 people, were able to, for the first time ever at TMI, to match the exact timing on our computer screens with the meditations, and therefore see what was going on exactly when it happened. And that was really terrific, because normally people at TMI are in their anti-gravity chairs listening through headphones to SAM-based, spatial angle modulation-based meditations, and we can't match the brainwave pattern with the meditation instruction because there are no meditation instructions. So this was really neat. And I wanted to start with Jim's because I have his patterns from the Superconscious Mind program. Then I'm going to show you his patterns from a regular discovery program in February. This one took place in December. Now, Jim started with half a brain, unfortunately due to a bad hookup on someone's part. But here you can see, even in with only the right brain, that he is showing a beautiful pattern with 80% awakened mind on the 64 hertz training summary scale, and gamma synchrony at 9, and that is with his eyes open. So what this is saying from the get-go is that Jim has an eyes open, awakened mind pattern, which, as you know, is extremely rare. Very few people have it because they don't maintain their alpha with the eyes open. And also you see a 9 hertz peak with his eyes open, which tells us that he is extremely connected to his deeper self. And in this alpha amplitude window, you can see that his alpha is just as strong in this first segment with eyes open as it is with eyes closed, and then during our opening baselines animal centralization, and that's where you project your awareness into that of an animal and perceive yourself as an animal. And when he did that, he had eyes closed, 86% awakened mind, and 77% awakened mind during that animal meditation. And you can see that Jim's brainwaves are beautifully synchronized. They really fire all at the same time. There are some gamma bursts down here in this composite display window. You can see that these purple 3 lines at the bottom, that's gamma. His beta is really consistent. Other than these gamma peaks, you're just seeing everything fire consistently. I'll point out which are which lines so you can gradually develop an eye toward seeing, connecting which brainwave category is associated with which line or belongs to which line. But here I pointed out this 1913 moment during the animal centralization where Jim did something that he does very often, and that is to form an alpha-theta crossover where the theta frequencies, and that's in blue, cross over the amplitudes of his alpha. So the green is his alpha, and you can see his alpha firing consistently. And typically, as usual, you're going to have theta of a lower amplitude than the alpha. But here at 1913, his theta exceeds his alpha in this crossover, which is associated with a great depth in awareness where you merge shamanically with an animal or with the earth or with your higher self, or there's some transpersonal experience happening here. And for Jim, what that transpersonal experience is his merging with his dog, which to him is a symbol of unconditional love. And so at 15 seconds, gamma flares. This is a close-up of just gamma. A real steady and stable gamma, but that wasn't the main thing in his meditation. The gamma was not. Instead, his main thing was to show you there that power of his theta, which you can see forms a very diamond-shaped pattern. You can also see here that he's got some amplitudes in his upper and his mid, as well as his lower gamma, forming this lovely diamond, which through the years we've come to realize that that is really what we call the diamond of the higher self. And you can see these alpha-theta crossovers with this blue theta exceeding this green alpha consistently. You can see that he does rise into gamma activities. And that, for me, is one of the best things to see about Jim's brainwave patterns, is that he's so, I don't know, what's the word, flexible, I guess. And as we go through his patterns from sustained gamma here, from meditation to meditation, I'll skip the coherence reports for now. What you're basically going to see is that he's really hanging around in this diamond-shaped pattern, no matter what he's doing. So I want to just take you down. Again, you see the firing of his brain waves. Very, I call them I say that they track each other so what we're really looking for in these composite displays is anomalies. And so one anomaly that I'll point up now, and other people as well, is that very often when people are moving into these altered states that are characterized by an increase in theta, and there it is, and then a big flare of alpha that drops away, then up comes the gamma. And how researchers say is that that gamma rides on theta. Some researchers say that gamma rides on delta when there's a high amplitude production of theta or delta, that then the gamma arouses. And that is so in Jim's brainwaves. In this instance, alpha drops away, the theta surges, the alpha surges with it. And it's going to be true, you're going to see it in a lot of other people's brainwave patterns as well, especially here in the right brain. I think I'm going to be able to do this. Love this about my new computer. You see that the alpha surges, the theta is right there with it, and then the alpha drops away, and boom, up comes the gamma. So his concentration of consciousness is moving up to gamma at this time, and it really takes precedence over all the other brain waves. And then his alpha comes back into play, and the gamma drops, because now he's moved into lower and slower frequencies. And that's really his power in all of these meditations, is that he's able to move into whatever state of consciousness the meditation calls for. In that one, he was moving out into a very expanded state, as he did in this one called the timeline. I love the timeline. I stole the idea from hypnosis. It's where you move into an environment, and that environment, inside the environment, you drop down into your theta, and then your delta, and you rise up in your spirit all the way through earthly life and worlds and universe up to a place of pure light. And once you get to white light, then you're able to move around in your spirit, either backwards into the past on the timeline or forward into the future. So what Jim did was something that he had been wanting to do for some time and had tried to do for some time. But during this meditation, which was supported with sound beats, he was able to do so. And that was to move toward the time when his parents had passed away, and he hadn't been able to be there. And he was able to get there and say his goodbyes and whatever else he wanted to say during this meditation. And the beauty of it is this is the same pattern. Look at that. This beautiful shaped diamond with this 9 hertz alpha peak and some gamma involved in it. So for the awakened mind, it's 90% at training level 5, which is what we're basically looking at, training level 5, because that's where advanced meditators, psychics, healers, and others will have high scores. But he's so expanded at the bottom that he is getting some evolved mind scores, very high, 46%, and a pretty high gamma, 40% too. And so I just wanted to show you his composite summaries and how his brainwaves are behaving. So he goes into his alpha-theta crossover with this blue theta starting to dominate his alpha here. And this is when he's going to the second sphere, the purple sphere, where you are looking into your past. And so he connects with either his parents here. I'm not sure, Jim. Maybe you can say something if you remember. This would be the purple sphere. The white sphere comes later. That's a memory of a peak moment of illumination. He made two major connections there, one with his deceased wife, if I may say so. And one of those went into this shamanic Alpha-Theta crossover. And his gamma had already doubled by then. He started out at about 0.5 and went to 1 microvolt. And so he stayed steady. But then this experience dropped his alpha and triggered his gamma. And when he went to the third sphere, to the joy, a moment of peak joy and bliss, of course, what we're really talking about here, and this increase in gamma during the moment of joy and bliss, is a very expanded, higher state of consciousness where you're illuminated by that light and by that experience, which is what makes it hard to talk about. It's not even just the content of the experience, it's the light itself, right? And then what I also wanted to show you here is that after this experience, you're asked to go back to your environment, descend back into your body, find yourself in the environment, and look where Jim went. Boop, 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 straight on down. Just decrease the gamma, the alpha comes back, he's back in his environment. So that's what I meant by saying how wonderfully, I don't want to say obedient, Jim, but reflective of your internal state that your brainwaves are. And you don't find this in everyone, but when you do, it's in someone who fully understands that what you experience in consciousness is happening in the level of the body, and it's happening on the level of the brainwaves. There's a surfing up and a surfing down, and those three are really reflecting each other. Jim also had a really nice meditation during Superconscious Mind with the Wise One. And the Wise One it's a really old meditation idea, so I revived it and added a couple of nice twists to it, where you walk into an environment and you connect with this Wise One who's sitting on a boulder waiting for you, and the Wise One gives you information, and you see how that information works out in your life. And when you are getting the information, when he was getting the information, he walks onto the path, his gamma rises up, he meets the Wise One, the gamma rises some more, compassion opens the heart wider is the language in the meditation, and then the gamma goes down a little bit, and it comes up when he's listening to the Wise One explain to him his gifts and abilities. And then you see how to resolve the challenges in your life with those gifts and abilities. And that's more of an awakened mind meditation. And sure enough, is very compliant, gamma goes down. And then the Wise One dissolves into you, and his gamma goes up. And then, his gamma goes up right here. And then you integrate. There's a moment of integration where the Wise One dissolves into you and integrates everything, and Jim's gamma increases there again. And then he sends the information to his conscious mind, and there's a bump in his gamma, and then the gamma starts to go down because the integration is taking place. And so I did a few captures here on the brainwave patterns. And so he's forming this deep subconscious trance. This is when his theta increases. And you can see that there's still some gamma here, but this theta is so strong, and possibly the gamma is here because of the theta, or maybe the theta is here because of the gamma. None of us knows, really, but we can look at the composite pattern and say, wait, the alpha went down, the theta went up, so I don't know. We can't say it for sure, but we can say that probably this composite summary is telling us that his dropped his alpha, the theta started to increase. You see that in the blue, and then up comes the gamma. So it does look like a causal situation. But what we can certainly say is that his gamma is responding to what the meditation asks for him to do. And the result is this merging and an evolved mind union with the wise one. And then he forms, right after that, a 100 hertz gamma synchrony superconscious pattern while retaining that big theta. Is that very cool or what? I love that meditation. And then I want to show you also how his patterns changed. I believe I have it at the end. I think Jim went out of body during most of these meditations. We developed some really nice screens for all of these trainings. One thing that we were able to do, finally figured out to do, is to have a mind mirror summary for each meditation on the same page so you could see how the pattern changed. And you can see that his pattern's not changing a whole lot. I mean, you've seen changes in the individual meditations, but once those are averaged out, those are pretty much all diamonds, right? But there were changes in the mind mirror summary scores. Laura Eichmann made these lovely bar charts for us, and I'll just acquaint you with them by showing you that the awakened mind is the dark blue, this first bar. We don't have an evolved mind reading for him in the opening baseline because of that hookup issue. And then this is the gamma synchrony. You can see that he went from about 78 to over 90 for his awakened, over 90 for his closing baseline, the same animal meditation, 4 days apart. His gamma increased from about 15 to 50%, which is an enormous change. To be specific, his gamma increased from 16% to 50%. So that was quite a change. But the real change, and the reason for giving you this lovely background, is that when Jim came to the next program in February, which is what these patterns are, he came with some very different patterns. Now, Jim, I don't know what you were doing between December and February. I know that Jim is a retired aerospace engineer and pilot and psychologist. And he also writes meditations or composes spatial angle modulation, SAM meditations for, he's learning how to do it. But I did one of his at TMI during the Superconscious Mind program and had some phenomenal experiences. So I don't know, Jim, if you were listening to your own meditations or TMI's meditations or what. I think this was your 20th program, maybe 22nd program at TMI. But rather than the diamond, you came back with a ton of gamma up here, forming this phenomenal, on the 100 hertz scale, gamma synchrony 84% pattern, 93% awakened mind. And this is with eyes open, right? Which is extremely phenomenal. This is saying that Jim externalized the superconscious mind gamma synchrony pattern, but not just on the 64 hertz scale, on the 100 hertz scale. He closed his eyes and he went into it almost in the right hemisphere, 100 hertz evolved mind pattern, and almost 100 hertz evolved mind pattern on the left, and the same thing on the right, only more of 100 hertz evolved mind pattern during the animal meditation. Now, I don't know how many people among you, how many among you love dogs, but for Jim, he meditated again on his dog of unconditional love, and that was the result, which is one heck of a result. Now, I want to show you a few more of his patterns here. One particular is Arya. Now we said, or the meditative writing of mine said earlier, that you're in your theta and delta connecting with something greater than, and that was actually the purpose of this meditation. Bob Holbrook, who composes the SAM meditations for TMI, asked people to just connect with each other during this meditation. It was a free flow. There was no sound, no verbal instructions in the meditation at all. And so Jim goes back pretty much to his diamond here, but with some extra theta delta at the bottom. And he's got really high statistics, 70% gamma synchrony on the 64 hertz scale, 87% awakened mind. But what was important about this meditation is that Jim decided to go to, I don't know if this has to do with your being a former aerospace engineer or what, but in previous experiences at TMI, he's learned that he can travel to constellations Lyra and Vega and their planets. And so during the meditation, when he realized that he would be able to go, that he had the consciousness to make that trip, he formed this 100 hertz evolved mind pattern that you see here on the screen during one of these gamma surges. That's him arriving on his planet. He called it elevated euphoria as he traveled from constellation to constellation and experienced the peace and perfection of Lyra and Vega and their planets. He circled this 8 on what we call the mystical scale descriptors. And I can find one and maybe read it out to you. No, I'll post it with the recording from this webinar. But they go all the way from mystical scale descriptor 1 would be, I felt that I entered an altered state of consciousness, to 4 is felt awe and reverence, 5 is bliss, and a much more expanded state of consciousness than usual. And then 10 is I experienced ultimate reality. So on this one, he circled at 8. It was almost an ultimate reality experience. And then on the 100 hertz scale, at 89% on the awakened mind, and at 83% in gamma synchrony. And these are just enormously high scales, measurements on that higher scale. And so, of course, there are results from these kinds of experiences. And the result immediately was the next morning during the space place out-of-body experience. He not only went out of body, scored at a 10 on the mystical experiences scale, but hit the target. And for those of you who don't know how the targets work at TMI, it's that Ross Dunseith, who is the director of research for TMI and also is a professor working in the Department of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia, where Ian Stevenson did all his reincarnation research. They're all geeks and they're brilliant in working with these extraordinary technologies. And so they work everything as controlled experiments. There are judges, and you have this target score thing that you fill out, questionnaire that you fill out. And so while Jim was having his extraordinary experience, again, in his same pattern, right? This is the pattern he showed through most of these meditations. 100 hertz by now, there's enough upper and mid gamma to just be measuring on him. 100 hertz, 82% gamma synchrony. He decides part of the way through to play the higher self card, he said, about 3/4 of the way through. And you can see the blue dots, about 2/3, these blue dots in this training summary for gamma synchrony on training level 3, which is very hard to attain because it means 70% attainment with the ratios of the pattern. He moves into this pattern and he went into Alpha-Theta crossovers, and you can just see this gamma surging, wop, 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 throughout this whole experience. And what he was doing during space place was going down to delta and tipping into his, there it goes. Okay, so you see the alpha, the green alpha, and then this big flare of theta and delta, gamma. He drops out the alpha, and he's just doing this the whole way. It would be too difficult to show you the pattern, but just take my word for it. I looked at it, and he's dropping into delta. The information is shunted up to the left brain gamma, and he perceives the information. And one of them, he perceived the identification of the target, which was located in a box on the rafters at TMI, and hit the target. And that's just the way it works with this gamma. It's pretty extraordinary stuff. Then I want to show you two more of his Earth Heart, which was particularly interesting because halfway through this meditation, same pattern, but a little bit more of a diamond shape in this one. Halfway through it, he decided to connect with someone else who was seated. I was monitoring 8 people simultaneously and enjoying their brainwaves, which was pretty easy to do because these meditations are 40 minutes each. And there was somebody else sitting at our table of 8, and he knew that she didn't feel well. So halfway through the meditation, he decides to send her healing energy, and look at his gamma go up. Isn't that sweet? And then he got tired, and sure enough, his gamma goes down. And so he reported this to me, and then she also reported her experience, and she said that she saw Jim's hand and face during the meditation. I'm not showing her brainwaves because I don't have her permission, but she had this huge gamma increase right in the middle, and she was not a gamma person. So she was receiving Jim's healing energies during this meditation, and another one I'm going to show you. And so Jim gets, he says by the end he reached his higher self, and he felt happy and blissful, and I think he gave that a 10 on the mystical experiences scale, something way up there. Yes. Lots of Alpha-Theta crossovers, diamond-shaped patterns. And I wrote that the mind mirror display shows your typical pattern, but there's nothing typical about it at all, except for you on the 100 hertz scale, extremely high awakened mind score of 84% and gamma synchrony 61%. And so during this meditation, metamorphosis, he and the woman he'd been sending energy to in the previous meditation had prearranged that they would link up and go to the higher self. Well, and that's exactly what they did. Again, in the middle of the meditation, and her brainwaves showed the same bump in gamma, which was anomalous for her. And this is the one he got tired of sending energy in, and you see his gamma. Now, is that compliant brainwaves or what? He said he felt that when his tank was empty and he was exhausted with the effort of sending it, sure enough, there's the gamma declining. And we see a near perfect awakened mind pattern, diamond pattern. Another diamond pattern during this last one. And then I want to scroll down and just show you his mind mirror summaries, how he shifted and changed his patterns according to what was needed, what he needed to do in the moment. So he's got this opening, gamma synchrony, 100 hertz gamma synchrony. He goes into the RV. This is the one where he hit the target. He went way deep down into his theta and delta to do that. Then he starts forming these diamond-shaped patterns. He stays in the diamond-shaped patterns, but for the closing animal meditation, he went right back to his dog, and this time with a lot more gamma. pretty cool stuff. And then the mind mirror summary scores. You see that his awakened mind started at 70% and went up to a bit higher than that for the closing baseline. His gamma synchrony went up even further. We saw it at 50 at the end of the previous program. Now it's 65. And at the end of this program, in the closing baseline, it's over 70. It's about 72%, which is pretty incredible. And what also increased during this program, and it's very important for us, is training level 4. So we're looking primarily at training level 5, because most people have tiny scores at training level 4, because that requires 60% pattern attainment compliance. But instead, he had almost 30 here in the opening baseline for this area where he had this experience with his parents, up over 30, 30 here, went down a little bit, but all in all, pretty extraordinary series of experiences. Not uncommon experiences for Jim because his brainwaves are so advanced, but also not uncommon experiences for other people at TMI, because for the same reasons, because they have extremely advanced brainwaves. Now Jim meditates to Sam, writes Sam, and then comes to the programs. But who I want to show you here is a woman from Belgium. This woman I'm going to show you is an assistant to the other woman who is a psychiatrist in Brussels. And this woman is not only a non-meditator, she has only in her life for the past, let me see how long, so I say this correctly. Since 2010, she has occasionally listened to hemisync meditations. And so as a counterpoint to Jim, what you see is, as in most people, is an eyes open, not too much alpha. See the big difference in her alpha. She closes her eyes and her alpha increases. But there is some activity up here in during eyes open and eyes closed, which is a beautiful awakened mind pattern at 92%, training level 5. You see a gamma synchrony 71%. So she's really got, for unknown reasons, some amplitudes up here in gamma. Even more beautiful awakened mind, 90% during the animal sensualization, and a 67% gamma synchrony. So I thought, well, this is going to be interesting, and it did get interesting. In the very first meditation, she fell in love with the music that was playing behind the Sam beats, showed pretty much the same pattern. During the RV exercise, though, she showed so much more mid-gamma here in these 2 bars that I began to measure her on the 100 hertz scale. And on the 100 hertz scale, 78% awakened mind and 79% gamma synchrony, which is very high. But she did have a few sensory images, driving a car along a white coast, sand, and castle priests and dogs. She didn't really know what that meant. So I said, I would pay some attention because of your patterns. You know, this is pretty extraordinary. And then we come to Aria, the same one as Jim, where you're connecting with the energy of the group. And then her gamma really starts to increase, 76%. And this was because of emotion. And so, of course, gamma, as you know, is connected with love and compassion, attentional awareness, higher states of consciousness, out-of-body experiences, lucid dreamings, lots of different connections or things that arouse gamma. Here, for her, again, it was the music. So now she had the music that related to the sea became her landmark for gamma arousal. And now the point of showing you hers, along with the other woman from Brussels, is that both of them hit the target. Remember, that's just a picture or an object in a box on top of the rafters during the exact same two meditations. So now we are looking at mind synchronization, or, I mean, how could it be pure chance? The only two that they both attained the target in, space, place, and another one. But now you're seeing, remember this awakened mind we saw, a lot more gamma. So sure enough, she had more gamma arousal, and on the 100 hertz scale, 69%. And you can see her gamma arousing as she's having her experiences and meditating twice during this meditation. But for her, contrary to the other people, this is why I say you just don't know how gamma is going to behave in different ways in different people. She maintained her alpha. You know, Jim dropped his alpha and increased his theta and delta. She did increase her theta somewhat, but the gamma was already up, rising before she increased her blue theta. You see that? How the purple gamma goes up, or fuchsia I call it. Fuchsia gamma increases in amplitude. It looks like her theta is actually riding on her gamma here, and both of them, in a rather tardy fashion, increase her alpha. So, I mean, I love it. I love having structures and the idea that we know that something causes something to happen, but I think you can already see that these things are happening not simultaneously, and one thing can trigger another. And then the other meditation of hers, well, and here's a perfect example. Well, and then here's a contrary example. So in this meditation, which was called Cosmic Waves, I talked for 7 minutes to encourage people with nature imagery on expanding their awareness and letting go. And then I was quiet for 26 minutes, and then the voice came back in. So this was basically a free flow meditation. But she's really in a 100 hertz gamma synchrony pattern for this meditation, in which she stepped into a little 2-person airplane with a guide who showed her the universe. The earth looked like a tiny point below her. She saw beautiful flowers and colors and had gorgeous smells. There was an intense brilliant light, and all of this was spontaneous imagery. And so if you watch these different data lines, she's got some alpha. Well, she's actually got a big spark that was not SEMG artifact, because I went in very carefully and excluded that from, this was a real spark of delta that happened at the same time as her gamma. This could be when she stepped into the airplane, maybe. And then it starts to increase her alpha, and it increases her theta, and the two of them together are almost simultaneously, but really it looks like her theta, her alpha increased and her theta increased right before her gamma, but basically they're all increasing at the same time. And then her theta, her gamma really increases right here in this bump, and you see a big flare of delta. All three surge at the same time. And now they're all operating simultaneously, but by golly, as her purple delta increases, her gamma decreases. So she's got actually two seemingly separate dynamics for gamma going on in this meditation. Big delta, big theta that's managing. She's going way deep down. And then she goes back into her high frequencies, and those go down. So she's sort of going down, going up, and going back down, which is nice because when the spontaneous imagery arises in the low frequencies or the high frequencies, that's what you really can trust. I just want to show you this meditation because it's such a nice message for all of us. This one, Bob included these wonderful beats that have these start with Native American music and a kind of a feel to it called Earth Heart. And she had several gamma surges, but they were, you can see how I artifacted with the red markers, artifacted out, and these are in gray. So they're a little bit associated with this. So we can't trust that 100% not to be artifact. And in fact, you can see that in the mind mirror summary display that there's less gamma because of all this artifacting. So I just prefer to err on the side of caution, but still on the 100 hertz scale, it's 66%. So that's a significant amount of gamma. If you look down here on the composite summary, it's 5 microvolts that rises to 2 microvolts and then 1.5 microvolts. But what happened for her, she found herself working in a garden on a sunny morning, and a little rabbit appeared and opened the door to the big crystal on the grounds of TMI. This thing is about 8 or 9 feet high. It's huge. But she went inside of it, and the light was shining through it. So she was looking at it from the inside. And then she went downstairs with the rabbit through levels, some dark and some light, went to the center of the earth, and arrived at a medical clinic with doctors, teachers, and nurses. She had to ask them what it was about, and that was the message she got. And they said that people were using too much earth fuel, and the people in the clinic were repairing the earth. And she came back filled with hope. So, your subconscious mind gives you exactly what it is you need. This was the second meditation in which she hit the target score 3. And what was cool about it was that this Earth Heart and Metamorphosis had prepared her, because you can see her gamma is up. It's rising from that 0.5 we saw earlier. It's almost 1 microvolt now, all the way steadily through this meditation. So they would the participants write down their experiences on a piece of paper, because we want them to capture it right away, and they fill out emotional scale, comfort scale, mystical experiences scale. And that takes them about 10 minutes. And immediately afterwards, they went into an RV exercise with their eyes open. Well, they could have closed them if they preferred. But this participant hit the target with a target score of 1, and she saw the crystal, which could have been sort of precognitive in her rabbit meditation, because it looks like the crystal might have been the target. Now, a picture of the crystal maybe. But you can see that for this one, she's using her delta. Look at her purple delta. She's just whacking out this huge delta all through here. And she's got the delta going, and then all of a sudden there's this huge surge of gamma. However, there's a huge surge of gamma here that kicks off the delta. So again, for her, we don't know which is triggering which, but what we do know is that she was able to change her patterns somewhat with gamma for her experiences of love. But during the 2 targets, look what happened. That's where the big gamma is. Where she hit the target here and here, these are the biggest gamma experiences she had during the week. By the end of the week, she had increased her scores for all of the meditations. Awakened mind, 90% to 92%. Evolved mind, 22% to 25%. And gamma synchrony, 67 to 73%. So that was very cool. But to me, the coolest thing was, why did these 2 women who were friends both hit the target? Did their awareness help each other? Or did they create some resonant field that might have helped somehow the other people? I think 2 other people in my group hit the target in these same meditations. Now, this woman, who is the psychiatrist, has an interesting brainwave pattern in that she is very right brain dominant. You can see that she's got a beautiful, and this is eyes open, a beautiful gamma synchrony thing going here in the left brain, but in the right brain, she's just all spread out in these lower and slower frequencies. Now, when she closes her eyes, well, she pulls some of that amplitude in, but still, it's some significant rounding here. And that was really a lot of what she did during the week. During the animal meditation, she moves into almost an evolved mind, except for her big alpha here. So she had, I'm measuring her throughout on the 64 hertz scale, 78% awakened mind, but a low 11% for gamma synchrony. So that's not where it's really happening for her. All of the meditations that we did, basically the same brainwave pattern, except when she had an experience, like during this meditation called RV exercise. Give me a second and I'll see what she was doing there. Oh yeah, she felt that her brain was split into doing two different things during this exercise, and indeed it was. You can see that she's got this evolved mind pattern on the right, and more of just an awakened mind pattern with an upturned delta here on the left. And I just wanted to show you this because you can see that her gamma would arise. It wasn't that she couldn't produce or didn't produce gamma in response to the sound beats. It was just that these were not her dominant frequencies. Things were really not primarily happening for her in those frequencies. I really wanted to scroll down to, and you can, this is beautiful, isn't it? Where her, everything's tracking. Look at this, theta flaring simultaneously, delta flaring simultaneously with this alpha. It's really oscillations. So here's where she and her friend both hit the target together. The same alpha oscillations. Awakened mind 84%, good awakened mind score. But gamma synchrony is 17%. What she did here, she went back in time to 1914 France, because this is an out-of-body experience, and she did have an out-of-body experience. And she sacrificed herself for a friend who was afraid of dying. This was a cause of sadness for her. She saw her soul and her friend's soul lifting out of the body. It was so real that she could hear and smell it. Watch what happens. So this is... all of these amplitudes are set at, the attenuation is 9 microvolts for all 4 of them. And what she does, she starts out in this very strong, almost evolved mind pattern. And then her pattern amplitude shrinks. And we've seen this with these out-of-body experiences, that people will maintain the awakened mind or the evolved mind or the gamma synchrony patterns at super low amplitudes. And then they'll flare back in, and then they'll flare back out. It's just a shrinking of the pattern. And in one of these, one such pattern, she correctly perceived that target. Still a lot of delta for her. Delta is one of her most dominant frequencies. And you can see that she's got some gamma increases, but she's basically perceiving the target in awakened mind. And this is to just remind us that the awakened mind pattern is still the pattern of the psychic, right? The psychic and the healer and the peak performance and the creative people are all operating in this awakened mind pattern. And this one I wanted to include metamorphosis, because she had connected with the sadness of that experience in 1914 France, and she resolved it during this one. Connected with the crystal for Earth Mother energy, which she carried into her heart. And look at the rounding. Average pattern is a very strong evolved mind, albeit with her very pervasive alpha. And some gamma flares. And then here's the second RV. She goes back to her regular pattern. Is that cool or what? An awakened mind pattern, she hits the target. I don't remember if her eyes were open or closed. 19% gamma, so it wasn't really so much gamma, although it could have been delta. See that big delta flare there? Big alpha flare here. Some gamma at the beginning, but still below 1 microvolt. There it is right there. So she could have got the target at the beginning, or she could have got the target at the end where the delta flare was. This was only 5 minutes long, so she didn't indicate. And then she had the same changes in her brainwave patterns that depend upon what you're doing in the meditation. But she came out a little bit more balanced in the left hemisphere, which was something that she wanted. You can see that her all of her frequencies have amplified a little bit more from the opening baseline to the closing baseline. And she had wanted that balance, and she did get that balance. And so she had mind mirror summary scores. She went from awakened mind 78% to almost 90%. But her gamma also increased. That would be purely the effect of the SAM meditations. Her gamma increased from 1, which would be 10%, to over 30%. So, and we would have to say that it's very likely that that increase in gamma had something to do with the increases in her awakened mind scores. From 78 to begin with, 78%, to 88% at the end for gamma synchrony, from 11% to 35%, and for the evolved mind from 17% to 27%. Those are significant gains. Wouldn't you agree? Now, the next person I want to show you, her name is Dorothy, and she, interestingly enough, is not a regular meditator, but she has done 9 programs at TMI since 2000, and she occasionally listens to take-home recordings. But what's really interesting about Dorothy is that, to me, she had out-of-body experiences when she was a child, and she's had a lot of precognitive experiences, both as a teen and an adult. Unfortunately, we were having people during this February program help us do the hookups, and sometimes they didn't work, and so hers hookup was faulty. So while people were moving around in the room and writing down their experiences and talking and everything, I rehooked Dorothy and said, well, look, why don't we just redo it? So granted, this eyes open, big gamma here. We only did the whole opening baseline in 2 minutes, is partly due to the noise in the room. But what you can see here is that when she closed her eyes, that big gamma went down, reduced tremendously. She has a very unusual pattern in that she has a dominant 19 and 15 hertz bars of beta. And even during the animal meditation, you can see she dropped. She has a meditation practice where she dives deep down inside herself. And that's what she did here. And you can see the dive. There's an increase in her theta and an increase in her delta. And her delta even turns up. You have the second 1.5 hertz bar being more extended than the 0.75. So we call that upturn delta. And it's saying that you're in connection with your unconscious mind. So these are really beautiful patterns, but they don't get great scores because of this 19 and 15 hertz bar. So we never know from past experiences that those 2 bars can either be a narrator or there can be a driver toward higher consciousness. For Dorothy, they were a driver, and so I was really glad that she was saying, because I started measuring her right away on the 100 hertz scale, 66% awakened mind and 86% gamma synchrony. And that's for the animal meditation where you're projecting your consciousness inside an animal. And so those are super high scores for both of those patterns on the 100 hertz scale. But still, we don't know if it's a narrator or not. So we go into this free phase shift, the same pattern. She has some insights, and you can see she's definitely sparking the gamma up here. And remember, I've taken out the SEMG artifact very carefully. So these are, even though they're spikes and not super sustained, and they're connected with her delta in this case, as well as some increases in her blue theta. Even so, she's got that narrator there. But then we come to this RV exercise, and she hits the score. She hits the target with the 19 and the 15. So I'm saying now, okay, this is probably not a narrator, or if it is a narrator, it's a really good narrator, because she's got, on the 100 hertz scale, 73% gamma synchrony. She got images throughout the session, and she's got a really strong purple delta here. You can see the gamma peaks right here, especially in the right brain, sensory information. But I'm not knowing what about that 19 and 15, and I'm watching this thing. And then we come to the group synchronization exercise. And now I know that this is a driver for higher consciousness, that somehow this part of her that is producing this 19 and 15 hertz amplification is going to amplify or be amplified these higher frequencies. And so if I can say a little bit about your meditations, this meditation, and you might fill in a little bit, Dorothy, if you want to, what you're looking at here in this huge beta, well, you can see the fuchsia gamma takes off and all of the things surge, is a light globe. And she had this experience where she was connecting with children, and then taken up into the light. She became an electrical globe powered up by electricity, receiving and sending. She was playing with it, expending the energy, mostly receiving, but also receiving and building it up. And then she took and gave that energy to others. She was in what TMI calls Focus 15, which is pretty advanced. And then she carried the energy with her and dissolved into dust, and then ether, and then no thing, and then a part of everything. She said, I lost myself while I was feeling a part of everything that didn't want to leave. She felt cold and was tingling with energy when she came back after the meditation. And what you can see here is what is starting to look like the top half of an evolved mind pattern that's involving that 19 and that 15. And that trend continues. During this meditation, she's powering up the globe. Look at this massive upper gamma, all of her gamma, the whole top half. And then she's merging with the globe energy into a 100 hertz evolved mind pattern, which is pretty extraordinary. And then she goes to space place, which is the out-of-body exercise, and goes into this big gamma here, and has this top half of this evolved mind yet again. But now what's happening is that the software can really not very well compute her pattern, because it doesn't know what to do with this. So it's showing a lower gamma synchrony score on the 100 hertz scale. And if I may say a little bit about this meditation, this is the one where she experienced a bleak dust bowl to begin with, possibly in the past, or said maybe that's where we're heading as a civilization, let us hope not. And she was fading in and out of body awareness in the middle, but at a certain point, she's found herself floating in and out of space in a spacesuit, and she opened the helmet so that her essence floated out. So then she had a major, major landmark for, and here it is, about the middle of the meditation, for gamma. And of course, that's what we're always seeking to do, which is why we run all these screens. We want people to connect an internal landmark with what's happening in the brainwave pattern. So the poor software doesn't know what to do with these patterns. Cosmic waves and OBE, she goes back to her earlier pattern, lots of gamma in there, and then she does Earth Heart, and this was a really beautiful meditation for her. Show it. You see this huge gamma that really overtook her Alpha-Theta, almost overtook her Alpha. It overtook everything else in her pattern and formed this evolved mind top up here. So the software, 39%, and which is just not real. So she became the dancer in this meditation and merged with energy coming in through the trees and plants. She said, I started filling up with earth energy like a tick that was exploding. Energy was pulsing even into the core of the earth where she was floating and became the lava and the energy of it. And then she found herself riding on a ship and became a humpback whale and felt a lot of healing energy going up and down her spine. She gave this a 10. This is an ultimate reality experience. And the energy entered her throat. She coughed, and you can see that's where that cough was. And so this is the kind of meditation where you would most certainly have some Kundalini going on. And that would certainly explain this top half of an evolved mind pattern all the way up to 100 hertz. Pretty cool, huh? Metamorphosis, the one that followed directly after, she's maintaining the exact same brainwave pattern with this big high gamma. This time it starts up a little ways into the meditation. And this time she merged with the Earth's core energy to get balance after she'd been up in space and felt bright sunshine coming to the core. Core lit up. She took it and was suddenly out in the universe. She saw a speck and many specks of light. Then those became her beacon, the illuminating lights in the universe, and they were all her parts of everything. She said this meditation was quieter and gentler than Earth Heart, but she gave it a 10 on the mystical scale as well. And if you look at this composite display, this would be a half of a microvolt of upper gamma, which went to almost 1 1/2. That's a tripling of upper gamma. So that is just a huge gamma increase, isn't it? Yes, that's the main thing I wanted to show you. RV Wednesday, she maintained that same pattern right after. And then if we looked at all of her patterns, then you could see this all at once. So you're actually watching the formation of an evolved mind top, or you could say it the other way, that she increased into this major amplitudes of gamma, which subsumed the 15 to 19. But the main thing is that I wanted to share this for was just to say that this is not a bad thing, this 1915. It is, in Dorothy's case, probably a self-guide. And I've seen other people use these amplitudes and these frequencies to self-guide themselves into meditation and talk themselves down into deeper states. But she's maintaining that while she's got this high amplitude. Now, we would worry about this, just to make a practitioner-oriented comment, we would worry about these if she didn't have that much theta and delta. See? But in her case, it's moving toward this evolved mind. It's either a driver or subsumed by these frequencies where she's having these extraordinary experiences. And it certainly didn't get in the way of the target head. It's right there. Is that cool or what? Thank you for sharing that, Dorothy, for letting us look at your brainwaves. And I wonder if there's anything that you want to say about that training for you. Was that an anomalous training in any way, or did you come out of that with something different and unusual?
I would say it was the most powerful of all the Monroe programs that I've taken. And, you know, we did less tape sessions during that program because of all the research aspects of having to hook us all up with all the electrodes and all that sort of stuff. But each, I consistently had really impactful experiences in every single session, where at other programs it's, you know, it was sort of more spotty. You know, some days I'd have one, some days I wouldn't, and, you know, things like that. But I think the SAM technology I like a lot better. I seem to be responding to a lot better than the HemiSync. And it just was lovely. I mean, it was just such a lovely week. I just had, I mean, and it stuck with me. I mean, I can, you know, keep reimagining and feeling those experiences.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. You commented on your closing self-assessment that you had very expanded consciousness and a lot of mystical experiences, and at times you felt unity with all and unconditional love. And you even graded your spiritual gain from 6 at the start of the week to spiritual non-local from 6 to 10. So that says it all. I'm going to show you guys one more TMI person, and then we're going to turn to the Australia people I see there online, and I hope they can bear with us.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes, please.
One more thing. I also think that, you know, we don't want to undervalue the group experience. You know, Jim was at my table when I was having these experiences. So I think that we all were, you know, encouraging each other somehow with these experiences and making them more heightened, because the group was just phenomenal the week I was there.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, I showed you Jim's recipient seeing his hand and face when he was, unbeknownst to her, sending her energy, and then both of them rising into his gamma at the same time during that meditation and the following meditation when they were mind linked. And then we showed you the L person and the C person who are from Brussels, both hitting the target during the same 2 meditations. You know, there's got to be some buildup of resonant energy, some field coupling happening in these situations. And actually, this just changed my mind. I'm going to show you somebody now who totally blew my mind. This program, Superconscious Mind, it was my first program at TMI, and I had recorded all the meditations. Bob Holbrook had placed all of the SAM beats in them. I barely had time to listen to the SAM beats, and I had a sinus infection, and I was on prednisone. And then I started having allergic reactions, and I was on Allegra, an antihistamine at the same time. I was so zoned out during this program. This program was so hard for me. I can't begin to tell you. But that was nothing compared to the other things that happened during this program. I don't know if this person observed what happened or what was going on, but there was a lot of psi stuff, speaking of field coupling. And it was that, I won't even tell you all the oddball things, but suffice it to say that for the first time, mind mirror equipment started failing, and we would replace a piece and it would fail. Now, not the EEG sensors, but the computer. Well, I'll tell you one little thing. So one day we had this big snowstorm and had to go to generator power. And maybe it was due to the generator power, but the things I'm going to show you in this person's brainwave patterns seem to say that maybe it wasn't generator power, maybe it was something else. And during this one experience, Robin started up her equipment, same equipment she uses all the time, Bluetooth DSU. All of her people were fine, and then her Bluetooth DSU shut off and wouldn't start back up. So I had a bunch of extra equipment there, so I gave her a brand spanking new, all equipment tested before I get there, DSU, that also wouldn't start up. So we went to another DSU, that one started up, and then her computer failed. And then I had another computer there, so I gave her the other computer. So finally we got everybody's brainwaves going. And part of the way through the meditation, I looked over at Felice, who was way down from me, and she said, and she's waving her hands. I have to show you this. She's waving her hands and going, I don't know what's happening. And so I mosey over there, and 3 people, their brainwaves flatlined, and then the DSU shut off, and then the DSU came back on, and not 1 minute later, a light, it's like a baseboard light, suddenly came on in the completely darkened room and stayed on. And the monitors, everybody else's eyes are closed. They perhaps perceived there was a slight change in the light. The monitors were looking at each other. Why is this light on? And who turned on the light? And there was nobody to turn on the light. Bob is sitting there at the monitoring station, watching the software move. And there's this cursor in the software, and the cursor moves as the software moves. And just after the light went on, all of a sudden, Bob's cursor went woo, 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 and started moving around. He looked at it and went, what? And we're all looking at Bob to see what's going on with him now. And our equipment is running just fine. But then suddenly, Bob thinks that maybe there's some kind of electrical issue. So he gets up from his desk and he's going to go upstairs. But as he did, he pulled the computer out and it fell on the floor and stopped the sound for everybody, but he didn't know it. So he went upstairs and to tell somebody, what are you doing to the electricity? And Laura, who is a very practical person, ran up after me and said, there's no sound on. And he runs back in, turns the sound on. This kind of crazy stuff went on all week long. I mean, just bonkers stuff. And we'd never had anything like that happen. And maybe the reason was something I'm going to show you. So this person, to give you some background, I call him R. He was at a previous discovery program and a very high target hitter. He hit 7 out of 8 remote viewing and out of body. He never traveled out of body, but he hit it all through remote viewing targets. And that is phenomenal. He just had this natural proclivity. And this may well have been because after being a restaurant owner for some years, he decided to become an undercover homicide detective. And he ended up becoming so good at his work that he won every possible award. I mean, every award known to the police force operation in his city, he won it. And you can see that he's got this gorgeous awakened mind pattern with eyes open. He has fully externalized the awakened mind pattern. And as we say, that's very rare. And he did it with an 82% awakened mind score at training level 5. Not too much gamma. We had seen gamma and him at a previous program, which is why I'd asked him to be at my table. I was doing trying to do some special gamma monitoring. And so this is just this lovely pattern. And during eyes closed, he goes to 98% awakened mind. And then during the animal meditation, 94% awakened mind, which is pretty extraordinary. But what I want to show you here is that while he was sitting there with his eyes open, he was looking toward the stage, and he saw he thought it was a cat. It was this whirring kind of energy, and it came out from under the stage and moved into the room. And here's what his gamma did. He went, and you still can't say that he didn't suddenly go into gamma and then see this energy. But it looks to me like he saw the energy. It lasted for the 45 seconds he said it was out, and then it skittered back under the stage. I don't know what was going on in the room that week, but there was something going on. At one point, I just walked over to Robin's station, which is where most of the trouble was happening, and said, look, I'm going to just close my eyes. And Ross was standing there. And Ross, like I said, is, a very practical, grounded, scientific person. And I couldn't help it. We were about to start the meditation, and I felt what it felt like, a wide, about 2 foot wide cylinder, diameter cylinder, what felt like iron. And I just kicked it and said, stop, get away, go away. And that was the end of it. We didn't have any more problems. I mean, there was some energy in the room. And then at this last training in February, we had 0 problems. Even with 2 people, 3 people monitoring, 19 people, we didn't have any problems with equipment. So, but there's another aspect that'll become clear as I show you his patterns. So for this person, R, I also ran coherence reports. He asked for a long report. So you can see in the correlation coefficient here that he's got almost 0.8 high coherence, 7.5, and his low frequencies about 6, 7, 8 to, we don't have an active screen yet, so I can't tell exactly, but certainly 9 hertz. And that's right where you want coherence, because that takes in that 7.83 hertz Schumann frequency, the resonance of the earth. And I can't tell you, R is so grounded. This person is totally grounded. I mean, homicide detective, and he's, he meditates every day, does a Vipassana meditation, but he's not a person who necessarily would believe in spirits or see things skittering out from under the stage. And in fact, during this meditation, the animal sensualization, where he had this high coherence, and especially in alpha, you can see that didn't have the high coherence in eyes open or eyes closed, but as soon as he engaged in this animal sensualization, he started to hit this high coherence point of 0.7, and it stayed high coherence pretty much the whole time. So during this period of time, he found himself to be a polar bear, alone, cold, searching for prey. It was in pursuit of his mission, and I said, he thought that these were negative, and I said, what are the positives? He said, oh, okay, well, dedication, initiative, stealth, a survivor able to find what's needed to survive. And I went, gee, that sounds like a homicide detective undercover to me, right? And so he is slightly, on this hemisphere symmetry, you can see he's very, very slightly left brain, but not much. It's really 0.1, 0.2, and that means that that it's immaterial, doesn't matter at all. So I'll show you a few of his patterns. So expansion in this meditation, people were asked to go into the heart and to connect with the template, the energetic template of the heart, which the way I see it, and maybe you do too, is literally a template and the energy that creates the physical heart. And here he went really deep. So we saw that beautiful awakened mind pattern earlier. So now he's gone into really big theta and delta. So you can see that he's got a really dominant purple delta, right? So that's that seek and find delta that he's using to get his information in that awakened mind pattern for those targets when he's such a high target hitter. But he's still able to sink in. But you can see that his gamma is pretty steady on. He does have some gamma flares right here, but it's a steady on gamma. It's really not a major factor. But in that meditation, he was connecting with love and compassion. And so I just want to show you something I've talked about at times with Gary. So look at this band of theta at 6 hertz that is so far dominating the pattern. And because these are guided meditations, I was able to match the brainwave pattern with the meditation instruction. Notice all the ways you exchange love with others through your intelligence, wisdom, and kindness. So we call this an alpha-theta crossover. Well, it's not quite a crossover here because it's 6 hertz. Here it's a crossover because the top band of theta is so much more extended than this alpha here. And that's what's connected with shamanic, transpersonal, and so forth. And then in this meditation, what he was doing was navigating the fabric of space. I saw the fabric of space, which was at first a giant flat sheet, off-white in color, with millions of perfect circles within the sheet. It then consumed everything everywhere. It changed from light in color to the dark gray. I then began to travel through this dark matter, seeing points of light off in the distance. There were also balls, burnt orange in color. I then changed location. There were objects of liquid silver. So he's doing that while he's having this experience of love. And so this is the kind of transpersonal stuff you'll get with these alpha-theta crossovers. And this one down here, what I was saying was feel the clarity, wisdom, peace, and calm. Allow all of it to flow into your heart, body, and mind. Open to new pathways of possibility, opening to joy and fulfillment. And man, he absolutely went down there. And what you see, even though he hasn't got a ton of gamma, he does have higher coherence up in 0.6 of 9 is in this correlation coefficient. That marks high coherence. So he's right below 8 for all of these frequencies down here, which are probably 3 hertz to 9 hertz. That's a lot of coherence. And then he's got coherence, near coherence in his gamma. So even though it's not a lot of amplitude in gamma, it's a lot of coherence in gamma. And what's important about this for us is that when you have got coherence in gamma, gamma can cause coherence in the whole pattern. Now his greatest coherence, as always, is in his low alpha. You can see that right there. I can actually size that up. So you see the green dotted line. A lot of alpha coherence. And keep in mind, he's experiencing all kinds of changes in his patterns, including some evolved mind flares on the right or the left. But then, possibly, I think because of the gamma coherence, he's got coherence in his delta, here, here, and here, and then increasing coherence, both in delta and in theta. And so this actually points to something that's very important to us, and it's the concept that when you have coherence in gamma, which means amplitude symmetry on both hemispheres of the brain, the higher your coherence, the more likely you are to have coherence in all of the other categories. And amplitude symmetry means that information crosses from one side of the brain to the other more easily, and that their learning is more possible. Rewiring is going to be taking place, neuroplastic rewiring is going to be taking place inside of coherence. And it's also, as we saw earlier in this program, going to increase, I think, scores for the awakened mind and the evolved mind, because this is something Max Cade said, and it's that any higher state pattern will inform and stabilize the lower state patterns. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he was saying. So I kind of concluded that these windows in coherence show that his sustained perception of the fabric of space, the field, occurred in theta and delta, which increased the coherence of his brainwaves in those frequencies and in gamma as well. So during the matrix, the same sort of brainwave pattern where he's going very deep. Finally, he graded the table of subjective landmarks as a 5, which would be an awakened mind meditation. He'd been grading them 4s, saying that, oh, he didn't feel that they were that deep. But during this meditation, he was just awakened mind all the way with these big alpha green, theta blue, delta purple flares. You can see nice tracking. And he is working through his chakra system, and he finds what needs clearing, and he gets, then all of a sudden he has an image of a staircase, and at the bottom of it were 2 either bags or garbage cans, and he threw all the toxins in there, he said. And then his alpha comes up and gets really strong there. And then in this portion of there's an awakened mind meditation, let the healing begin. And it's awakened mind all the way. He has some activity here in delta, but this is really an awakened mind pattern, which again goes to show you that yes, we can have the gamma, but still so much is happening in the awakened mind. So this is his awakened mind portion. But he had the gamma up here when it said expand your body, expand beyond your body, gamma surge, connect with your crown, let the energy flow in, gamma surge, third eye, gamma surge, let the energy flow down into your throat, gamma surge, white light connection to your heart, gamma surge, and then he does the awakened mind portion and he goes out of gamma. It's just beautiful how the brainwaves will work. Actually, this is right where he goes to the lower chakras, because I could time it, you see, make those connections. He goes to the lower chakras, the gamma decreases. Dialogue with the part that he was talking about, drifting away from the undercover work. So he gets this gamma bump when he starts. He works in gamma a little bit, and then he just goes back down to awakened mind gamma. Is that pretty cool or what? Then I want to show you one more of his that they're all fascinating. Well, the main thing to show you here is that his coherence is increasing in the higher frequencies, mid-gamma, upper gamma. So the more time he spends listening to the SAM beats and meditating and clearing, which is exactly what our theory says, right? The more coherent his upper frequencies become. So in the timeline, I mentioned that already, this is where you go up to the timeline into the past. So what R did was he goes into this, again, gorgeous awakened mind pattern at 93%, but he's got a little bit more gamma here at 26%. And he goes into 3 scenes from his past lives. One of them, he, let's see if I can remember, was in an airplane, and he felt very busy. And then he went back to 1800s and found himself sitting beneath a tree where he was going to repair a wagon wheel, and he was just feeling really lazy. And then the third past life, he went into a Dickensian, 1873 Christmas scene with a family, and he saw every single detail. And at the end of the meditation, he realized that these were the answers to his questions about how to balance his work and family life. And he realized that it was the Dickensian one, which was all balanced, right? And he came out of the meditation, which was an awakened mind, right? You don't see much gamma here. It was fall when he walked in. It turned to winter. He goes into the past lives on the timeline, and then he walks out, and he gets the gamma back in the right brain, and it's turned back to fall. And the message is that you can balance your life, and it will renew you and give you what it is that you need to be able to, for us, make his brainwaves more coherent, for him, operate more productively in life. And he felt that this one was really, really expanded. And then the wise one, again, that's the one where you go and meet and the particles and everything. And I just wanted to show you this very cool changes in his brainwaves, which absolutely prove all of our theory. The wise one appears, and here's the polar bear, delta, springing up. There's something to see. Then the delta settles down, communicates gifts and abilities, and then his gamma starts to come up right here. Down on the bottom 3 lines, his alpha decreases into his theta and delta. And then the wise one touches his crown, his alpha comes back. The wise one dissolves into you, and his alpha comes back, and he comes out of his gamma here into more of an awakened mind as he brings these things into awareness. He integrates them into awareness. In this meditation, the wise one appears, evolved mind, right brain. There's a recognition between them. He has this delta surge for the recognition. And then he goes and he finds himself looking at a mushroom. He starts to peel the mushroom. He goes into the mushroom, and inside the mushroom, he realizes that he needs to just do what he needs to do in life without so much attention to what other people want him to do. And look at the collapse in his amplitudes. He goes into the mushroom. This is 12, this is 8 microvolts attenuation, this is 12, and this is 7. So what's happening for this person as he has these experiences, and I'll show you more closely in a moment, he is in some way that I don't understand, but I'm certainly watching like a hawk right now. He is decreasing the overall amplitudes of his pattern and having a more profound psi kind of experience. So he hits the target in infinite mind, this RV exercise, and he understands how to hit the target. Then he goes to, and possibly through some gamma, you can see all this gamma rising up. I won't even bother to show you the ones because I want to take you to this higher. Again, he's got this amplitude decrease in the right brain, but not in the left brain. And in the meditation, he sees Ross, the research director, smiling about something that either surprised him or confirmed something he suspected. And sure enough, R writes this down, and R, after the meditation, does actually have exactly this experience in exactly the place that R saw it happening. He encounters Ross, who wears this expression, and he tells him that he had just hit the target and invited him to go to the DOPS lab as a subject. Pretty cool. But what's really interesting about this meditation is because R began to fall out of his body twice. He felt himself going out of body. And there's that teeny tiny pattern again. Look at that. So this is the attenuation 999. It just starts to disappear, and we've seen this at TMI over and over and over again. They can stay in a pattern, they can flatten out, he's pretty much flattened out here, or they can stay at super low amplitude, awakened mind or evolved mind pattern. And then lastly, look what's happening with his patterns. Here's an awakened mind, then he goes deep down, Awakened mind, awakened mind, awakened mind, awakened mind with some gamma in it. And then after he hits the target, once he hits the RV target, he starts to collapse his pattern. Amplitudes collapse, right? See that? This is 10 microvolts. These are still awakened mind patterns. If I zoomed in, you would see that they're very strong awakened mind patterns, but the amplitude has changed. So what does that mean? Well, I think it means something really interesting in light of the story I'm going to tell you now. So about the fourth day of this strange and wonderful, technologically challenged, and it wasn't our fault, training, R says to the monitors who come and tell me that he saw a ghost. And so I go into the training room and I'm singing the Ghostbuster song, dun, 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 and ask people to sing it, and then we get him to tell the story. And the story was, and I think it's because his pattern started to decrease and his psi awareness started to increase, that he woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning to use the bathroom, and just as he opened his eyes and sat up in his training area, that a face came right at him, and it was a ghost, and it got up right in his face and said, "Hi," and he went, "Wah!" and jumped up, hit his head, jumped up out of the bed, ran downstairs, was looking for somebody to tell this to, and of course at 3 o'clock in the morning there was nobody there. And he, after a long while, went up to bed. But here is another instance of something was going on in the field during that training. I don't know what. It could have been poltergeist. It could have been that iron rod. It could have been just some sort of field events. It could have been the snowstorm. The logical part of me wants to say it was poltergeist, not the snowstorm, because we were well back up on ordinary pattern when that whole series of things happened that I told you about. But for R, what happened was that he had this 12 microvolt pattern all week long. And as he started diving into his theta and delta, connecting with something greater than, going into past lives, which, by the way, he was Googling those past lives because he had the years for each one. And he found out while we were still in the training room that every single one of those scenarios existed at that time. And he could have been seeing real past lives. As he started to, you see, expand his awareness out into something more and more superconscious, his earthly self vibrating at 12 microvolts inside the awakened mind started to say, well, I'm not quite here quite as much. I'm here. I'm still grounded inside my awakened mind pattern, but I'm shrinking. See? Pretty cool, huh? So let's have some comments about that. And we're going to show you 3 patterns from Australia, 3 people's patterns from Australia. So what do you say? What do you think about that? Pretty weird, huh? Does anybody believe in ghosts?
I had a MacBook and a PC in my room with me. I took it on the trip because I was working on some sound break periods. And neither one would work. We kept having random failures that were not consistent. And I took them out into different parts of Nancy Penn Center, and they wouldn't work there either. Got them home, and they all worked fine. There was something going on.
And it could have been the gamma. I mean, it could have been the gamma. There's just absolutely no way to know for sure, but there was a lot of psi stuff going on. You've just reminded me, Jim, that Jim actually had some psi stuff going on too. During one meditation, he reported afterwards that he had seen me. I think you were out in space or somewhere, and you saw me approaching you to do something to do something that had to do with instrumentation, and it turned out that one of his sensor pins fell out during that meditation, and after he'd had that image, and that's exactly what I did, was I had to get up and find out what was wrong and reinsert that sensor pin.
Yeah,
And
it was precognition of them. I saw the future.
yeah, and then another time, I was telling this story about this pervasive imagery I've had of myself. I was telling it as an example of something, teaching something about how old patterns can define your entire life if you don't clean them up. And when I was 2 years old, I was standing on the porch of a screened-in back porch in Baton Rouge, and my father had just left, and I had this image of, they divorced, and had this image of myself. And before I told that story, during a SAM meditation in the afternoon, Jim saw a 2-year-old on a back porch with a noose around her neck. Right? Before I told that story. So this stuff was really, I mean, that whole week was absolutely hopping. It was so stressful for me. Wonderful, stressful at the same time, you know, running around with all this equipment, trying to fix this equipment, and lights flashing on, and people seeing ghosts, and
we've had that happen at Monroe before. I mean, I had that happen at the MC Squared program, where 3 of us in the program, not simultaneously but separately when we were alone, saw, you know, fleeting images of something in the Nancy Penn Center, and I kept smelling like really strong cigarette smoke whenever I was in that room, and nobody in our group smoked, and it was just sort of like so strong, and you know, we just kept getting these like we'd walk into the room and like covered in goosebumps, like there was something there. And then as we were leaving, this was like the last night, and as we were leaving the next day, they were setting up for Bob Monroe's 100th birthday celebration.
oh.
And I sort of put 2 and 2 together. I was like, you know, Bob was a big smoker, so maybe he had arrived and was there. But it was really, I mean, it was uncanny. I mean, it was so present.
The veil is very thin there. And this is a perfect lead-in for what I want to show you now. And that is the patterns of 3 people who not only did not have any gamma support from TMI, but didn't even have any music. And they didn't even have superconscious meditations. They were listening to our regular meditations for awakened mind training. If I may say, I see that a few are there. I have one person whose initial is F. So Fred Swan actually hosted me there to go to Australia and do, in Melbourne, and do a training for a group of people. Didn't know to the last bit who was going to be there, but it turned out to be 7 people. And that's where I learned that I could draw the brainwaves of 7 people during much, much shorter meditations and lead the meditations at the same time. It was really interesting. We had one Bluetooth DSU hooked up for 4 people, and then a USB DSU hooked up for 3 people on the other side. And all of the people in this training were so incredibly advanced. They were all committed, except for one person, and she had massive gamma, committed meditators and very far along on their life paths. And Fred was one of them. Fred and his partner John hosted my coming there. We're in this beautiful giant training room behind their network chiropractic practice. Both John and Fred are network chiropractors, and we're going to show you Jace's brainwaves too. I've already got his permission to speak his name. He's here with us today. Jace is studying network as well. And you're going to see what I'm talking about, more show and less tell, but just suffice it to say committed meditators. So here we have an opening baseline for Fred. And eyes open, he has got an 85% eyes open awakened mind at training level 5. You can see he's got this beautiful alpha, excuse me, that's there during his whole meditation, and this massive delta. And this makes perfect sense because, of course, Fred is all about the field. That's what network chiropractic does. It works with people from on the level of the field. And this is really his main interest in life, is what this is all about, how we connect with this field, what this field is, how to power up people and potentially even power up the world with this field. So he started out with this big delta, closed his eyes, went from 85% awakened mind to 91. During the animal meditation, dropped down to 88, but you can see that this is a beautiful pattern, and there's a hint of gamma in it. So Fred is not potentially a gamma person. I mean, not a non-stop gamma producer, but he can arouse gamma when appropriate. And you can see that here in this composite display. So here's his gamma down at these bottom 3 lines. And he, during the animal centralization, was very engaged, and he had this big insight toward the end. And so then we do a meditation called the book. I just made it up off the cuff. It's basically the same as animal centralization, except that you're projecting your awareness into a book. He had some big ahas, and then he kicked on his gamma in the left brain, and his delta stayed there. 96% awakened mind at training level 5, but gamma synchrony for the left brain, 70%. Now this is a really significant score because there was no music, nothing but the instruction. He just kicked on this gamma all by himself to get the insight. So then I had to measure him on the 100 hertz scale, 73% gamma synchrony on the 100 hertz scale. You can see in a close-up that he got his insight, and then he went down and integrated the information that he got. And, you know, this is taking it down into theta and delta so that, you know, you're moving more into an awakened mind kind of integration. And then, let me see which ones I want for him. I want to show you, yes, I want to show you the River of Life. So the River of Life, for those who aren't familiar with awakened mind meditations, it's basically taking you into a very, very deep delta relaxation where you connect not only with your sense of peace and physical relaxation, but with the sense that there's something more, that you're moving towards something that you have always needed to move toward. So there's that sort of mystical aspect to it. So you had this big delta increase here. And so what I really wanted to show you was another example of how and when the gamma comes in. So you see he's got steady alpha in the green all the way here, steady theta, very nice tracking, just a few little blips of gamma. We wouldn't say too much about them, but then sure enough, down goes his alpha as he goes on to the River of Life and floats in the boat or whatever he did. And then his theta comes up. You see that blue coming up right there? And then the theta increases, and then the theta increases again, and then up comes the gamma. So he went down to go up. You see that? But then as soon as he went up, his alpha kicks back on. So now he's able to sustain that gamma inside of an awakened mind pattern. He doesn't have to lose the alpha to go down there. He can maintain the alpha and maintain the high frequencies at the same time. You know, a lot of people will go do one or the other. The point of being super conscious is to maintain the low frequencies and the high frequencies simultaneously with alpha in there as the bridge. And I want to just flip through these because the closing pattern of Fred's is the one I really want to show you. So I'm going to flip through them kind of fast, but you want to see them. So this is his personal self-guided meditation where it kicks on this gamma in the left brain and the right brain. And on the 100 hertz, he's got a 73% awakened mind and a 69%. It's just beautiful. It may have to do something with breath because one of the other participants told me that breathing light into the crown, that when she did that, that was when we discovered she created some serious gamma. Personal transformation, gorgeous tracking in his patterns. See this alpha, theta, delta firing simultaneously all the way through. 97% awakened mind, but rounding here. So when he goes deeper, he goes into more of the evolved mind pattern. The magic potion, Jim, this pattern looks a little like yours, doesn't it? Got the big gamma up at the top, but still more of that diamonding down there. So this is a 99% awakened mind pattern. In the little explanation of how to read your report, things that we do, I've always had it read that that advanced meditators, psychics, mediums, and other spiritually awakened people will score between 75 and 98% at training level 5, because it's very rare that we see anybody with a 99. I mean, now you're talking about a super high awakened mind score. Even though this is more in the 100 hertz, this is saying that when he was down in his lower frequencies, he was almost 100% compliant with the pattern. And then we started to say, okay, 75 to 99%. But just last month at this TMI program, we saw somebody with 100% awakened mind at training level 5. So we have to now, so this is what I meant by pushing the boundaries of the mind mirror database. I mean, so now we really have to start looking at the training level 4 scores more. And then I wanted to scroll to the very end to show you, we did all kinds of meditations. We did enormous. Well, I want to show you his wise one. He had a beautiful wise one meditation where he met the wise one, imagined him as a cloak without eyes. Let me come from my notes. Excuse me a moment. Well, I'll just tell you the best I remember, is that when he found the wise one, he started working with ideas of telekinesis and teleportation and field awareness, and the concept that the energy in the field can power up this planet. And he had some really fascinating insights into that. And sure enough, 98% awakened mind, because he's got so much rounding here, 33% evolved mind. This wasn't so much a gamma synchrony. He was way down deep in here. But he did have gamma arouse. See that? All those places. And the synchronization, the synchronous firing of his brainwave categories is a sight to behold. You don't often see that. You know, you see people flare this at a high amplitude and then in a low amplitude and flare that the same way. You don't often see theta and delta and beta firing at the same time as the alpha. This is really, I think we have to say that this is our definition of coherence. You know, technically the definition of coherence is coherence within a specific set of frequencies. But this has got to be coherence. I think we can see it as coherence across the frequencies. And so then I just wanted to show you how his patterns increase during the week. So he starts out with this awakened mind with the big delta. The book, he develops the left brain gamma. He drops way down into the river of life. So this is an adept, basically, is what you're looking at here. His own meditation has got the big gamma, the self-guided. He's doing the work of the awakened mind, so he drops into that pattern. Personal transformation, it was very powerful for him, and he decided that he would, work on some deep stuff, and he caused a lot of evolved mind flares. And then the magic potion, more of an awakened mind, and then he gets more and more of an evolved mind pattern. You see this? So what happens? He's got this rounding during the bubble, and then he finally gets to the wise one. And we're really looking at what is almost a 100 hertz universal consciousness pattern. It is very close to being a circle. See that? That's really pushing the boundaries for us. Anytime we see that, I named it and correlated with Max Cade's 8th state, which is cosmic consciousness. But this would have been just what Fred was experiencing. Merged with the wise one, projected his consciousness into a bird or eagle flying above the forest. It was able to sense thoughts. Merged with the light of the wise one, projected his awareness into an experienced bird. The broader intention was using energy as a fuel source and teaching others to do the same. So what else would universal consciousness look like but a field in which you're aware of the field and understanding how to use the field? Pretty cool, huh? Now I want to show you, I'm going to keep this person's name. Also in Australia, an occasional meditator, doesn't meditate every day, but is committed to meditation. And a really beautiful person who's very interested in psychotherapy and brainwaves and does biofeedback type work. Fred and John have at their current network practice a phenomenal setup where they're when people come in, they can get an assessment that measures heart rate variability, temperature, EEG, GSR, blood volume, pulse, their versions of it, and get this assessment that really helps them with their adjustments. And so she's been working with that equipment and is doing a grand job of it. Now she too is very advanced because of her experiences with meditation. She can use some more alpha with eyes open, but when she closes her eyes, 91% awakened mind, but also gamma synchrony, 54%. She's a serious gamma producer. The animal meditation, no different from her eyes closed when she's working on becoming an animal, 91%, and the gamma synchrony, the same, 54%. And you can see how our gamma operates. Alpha triggers, or maybe the gamma triggered the alpha. It's kind of hard to say. Actually, here it looks like the theta triggered the gamma, which then triggered the alpha. But then she goes down deep in the river of life, and her gamma arouses, and somewhere right in here, she reached a point of stillness, and that's where she had a landmark for gamma, because her point of stillness was where her gamma aroused. When she returned to her alpha, you see the gamma decreased. Another perfect example of how that gamma, anything can kick it on. On the 100 hertz scale, 62% gamma synchrony and 63% awakened mind. And then she just basically went through a lot of awakened mind meditations, but she could kick that gamma on when she wanted, and especially when she was, working through important issues. But she would always come back to synchronization, symmetry. And a lot of rounding in her pattern, signifying her connection with her unconscious mind and the fact that she was bringing information on up. She did a personal self-guided meditation, which was gamma here, and gamma synchrony 69%. And this is, she's just doing it. I'm quiet. I think they did it for 10 minutes. Everything's quiet. She just turned on this left brain gamma and stayed in 100 hertz, 73% awakened mind in the right brain. It's phenomenal. During the inside-outside, with her eyes open, she learned how to turn on and keep on her alpha. So that was a huge stride. Still a little bit left brain dominant, but look at her alpha. That's with the eyes open. And this is with the eyes open as well. So phenomenal stride there. She didn't much like the country walk, but the down and in was nice. And this is the one I'm really working towards showing you here. So Jace suggested this exercise. Says, well, if there is a connection between delta and below it epsilon frequencies, then why don't you guide us in a meditation and let's see if it produces gamma. So I said, ever game? Sure. And so that's exactly what we did. So here was the start of it: quiet your beta, kick on your sensory awareness, she kicked on her gamma, drop down into your theta, now drop way down into your delta, drop now farther still. It kicked off her gamma, you see. Just completely kicked it off. Now rise into your boom, rise into your gamma, and there she goes. Just beautiful how body awareness and landmarks and remembering what it feels like to rise in higher frequencies actually does that. Super elevated person, able to turn her gamma off and on and do beautiful things with it. Here's the wise one, not unlike her personal meditation pattern, where she had a notable experience in that too. All right, now I want to show you the last person of this program. And this is Jace. I can say his name. He has agreed to let me show his brainwave patterns, which are also gorgeous. Jace is been studying network chiropractic, but a dedicated meditator. And this, you know, even if you fall off every now and then, if you go back to meditation, it's going to love you. So during this animal meditation, Jace had a 94% awakened mind, but you could see that he has a phenomenal gamma synchrony score of 96% for the animal meditation. That is extraordinary. Where you see his awakened mind, 94% is in the left brain and his gamma synchrony in the right brain, 96%. I still have not seen a score that high anywhere, neither at TMI with the support of sound beats, nor anywhere. And in fact, he has a 46% gamma synchrony score with his eyes open. His awakened mind score is not very high with his eyes open because it wants less gamma. That gamma is happy enough on the right brain to have that's a significant score. But when he closed his eyes, 83%, and he's got this little delta, like Fred, that snakes out there to check what's going on. But it's also an empathy and a psychic delta, I think. So this was just mind-blowing, a 96% during this animal meditation for gamma synchrony. This is the personal meditation. His gamma was already up, and it held up during this river of life, that one where you go and float in a boat. And you can see there's a lot of activity, but his alpha is holding very, very steady. He's got some delta flares in there, but the main thing is that he's got the superconscious alpha and delta at the same time. All right, so one thing I wanted to show you about Jace's brainwaves, and I think this is a gamma connection, but it's also possibly an awakened mind connection. We can't really prove it, you know, until we get into an fMRI situation. But what you have here is a beautiful awakened mind pattern, really on the 100 Hertz scale. I should have measured it that way. And very nice hemispheric symmetry. And I wanted to show you his coherence. You don't often see coherence this strong. This is for low alpha, which is 8 to 10 Hertz. And throughout this meditation, look at this. You see this green dotted line there? Just beautifully coherent throughout. And I saw that with his brainwaves over and over again. The House of Doors. So Jace has this incredibly vivid imagery with this alpha. And when the gamma comes up, he gets phenomenal imagery that he also knows what it means because he's got nice theta and delta too. What I wanted to show you here is another technical thing, but it's very cool. In this meditation, he dissolved into the ground and became the jungle. And as he did that, the whole time he was doing that, his gamma was way, way up. He started, you know, like a microvolt of gamma, which increased to 4 microvolts all the way across. His alpha held steady, but at times, when the alpha decreases, like let's say here, it's after a theta. So you've got this theta and this alpha and this gamma correlations. I'm not sure that there's an answer to it. I mean, maybe it's just the way that the brain wants to go, but certainly during psi experiences, where coherence increases, his low alpha was even higher than the 0.7 here during this meditation. And his high alpha was high, his theta was high, his delta not quite as high because he's got that little snaking right brain delta. And just every single one of his meditations went the same way. Here you can see an inverse correlation between big blast of delta, nothing happens, but then the alpha goes down and up comes the gamma. Then you've got this big blast of delta, which doesn't seem to make a difference to the gamma. But then here comes the delta over and over again, and then the gamma goes down. I think it's just kind of strange and wonderful that gamma has a personality of its own. This was a personal transformation meditation, the one I just showed you, with these big delta flares, and the gamma increased throughout most of the meditation. And you can see this left hemisphere gamma synchrony, which is very strong and all the way up to 100 Hertz, and in fact gets a reward of 64%, which is very high. So what happened was that he was meditating on a question, issue, or challenge that he wanted to change or transform in some way. And he saw himself, rising up into a cloud and connecting with a diamond vibration. So he brings this vibration down to the roiling, murky earth. He lifts himself up into the whiteness, and he hears the words, "Clear out before the onslaught of helping others." Well, have you ever figured out what that means?
A little bit, yeah. The word onslaught probably doesn't sound like a good word, but in this context, I think it's okay. It's kind of, if I am going to help other people, do some work on myself to help as many people as I'm able to help.
Okay, so clear things up. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you want to come out of a personal transformation meditation. But he also had other insights, that everything's fine, that he's doing things right, and a coming gift of vision. Did you ever understand what that means?
Probably as part of that, a greater attunement, becoming more perceptive and trusting, I suppose, in what might be inherent, but also developing.
So he's getting, that's what the gamma is about, you see. The gamma is it is attentional awareness. That is true. So you can have gamma rise up for attentional awareness. And, you know, who knows, that could have been an attentional awareness. But at the point where he starts to be assured that everything is all right, that he's doing things just as he needs to do them, you can count on that being the psychic gamma. That's the more mystical, intuitive gamma. That's the gamma that, that makes you super conscious. I don't know if you can be super conscious with just attentional awareness. I suspect not.
As opposed to the other type of gamma?
Yes, right. I've had people here who were like software engineers, and they had gamma rise up, and they didn't believe that it was gamma because they didn't see how they could have the love, compassion gamma. But then I'd say, well, wait, didn't you tell me you're a Qigong master? And they'd say, yeah. And I'd say, well, so that would account for gamma too. But this guy didn't feel like he had the love and compassion. So it seems like there can be a disjunct, you know, that attentional awareness won't take you into love and compassion only. There has to be something in you that allows that to happen. But I think that once you're immersed in love and compassion, that your attentional awareness is a given, because if you can then hang on to it, you know, if you can hold on to the state of consciousness. And then the book, 100 Hertz scale, I had to go to 100 Hertz scale, this 93%, which is one of the highest scores I've ever seen for the book, or for any meditation, anywhere. That's an extraordinary score. No music, no binaural beats, no nothing. He says there was something quite juicy in this meditation. Well, what was quite juicy was that he saw the book with a dot on the cover, and then he could just zip into the dot and go into the book to get information. And I said, man, that's a heck of a landmark. And so that's definitely a psi state when you're up in those frequencies. And then look at his low delta, the coherence steadily increasing. The more time he spent in that meditation, the delta was increasing in coherence. Maybe that's, you know, a gamma connection too. That the gamma can make the delta, not just the delta make the gamma. I love this one. It was called The Magic Potion. I kind of made up the words on the spot. It was one that Anna Wise used to do with people. He perceived himself as silver mercury that comes alive to people who are attuned. He drank himself a few times and perceived himself as powerful healing substance. And you can really see that in this pattern, how beautifully symmetrical it is with this upturned, evolved mind. And it's going all the way up to 100 hertz, no question about it. This is the attentional awareness, right? Attentional awareness isn't just in beta, is it? Attentional awareness means keeping your consciousness on something. So you can see in that those very strong flares of alpha, and also in the synchronization of the pattern. It's easy for gamma to come up in those. Oh, and I said this, I know that this was a little silly of me, but I couldn't help it. This delta gamma thing is such a question. And I looked at this and went, well, now, isn't that interesting? What if we're actually looking at the biofeedback loop? This is a hemispheric symmetry window, but he's got a dominance, a very slight, tiny 0.1 dominance in delta, and then there's a dominance in gamma. What if we're actually looking at the biofeedback loop between delta and gamma here? It's got to show up somewhere. Maybe it's showing up there. Meditation after meditation, everything is getting more and more synchronized in his brain waves. And we've got, you know, I tracked all this. Super synchronous alpha again. Low alpha is increasing even more. It is up to 0.9, where 0.8 is the point of coherence. His high alpha is strengthening. His theta is reaching coherence. So this is to say that an intensive meditation like this, where you're meditating every day, although we were studying in the afternoons, we were meditating every single day, is that coherence will increase. It has to increase. And I do want to share this meditation. This is very fun. So we get to the down and in meditation, and this is where you're literally diving out of your alpha into theta and delta. And the fun part is that some people click out, they just go to sleep, and some people are able to stay awake and don't get anything. But Jace, he sank to the bottom of the river to a crystal clear pool of water where he encountered a pesky leprechaun bathed in the water. And he bathed in the water and he placed a pearl in his third eye. And so in the summary plot, it says that there was some artifacts, so I subtracted that out. But this training level 4 is really showing that he's alternating between all three patterns: the blue gamma synchrony, the yellow awakened mind, and the red evolved mind. So this is definitely a dive in here for him. That's what caused the evolved mind patterns. He placed the pearl in the third eye, and then the summary plot shows lots of activity in blue theta, and then he was having these alpha theta crossovers. And so what I said was, you know, this thing might not be that meaningful to you, but you were way deep down and your gamma was coming up and something was happening. And what's more, you had this high coherence in a lot of frequencies. Your coherence came up through all these frequencies here and here. Not so much in gamma, but in the lower frequencies. And then one of the last things I want to show you is how it came up. Low delta, now that's up. Theta's up. High alpha's up. Low alpha's up. Beta is starting to measure beta. It was much lower before. And then even low gamma is coming up in coherence. So what this is basically telling us is that our theory works and is provable, because what our theory says is that when you dive into theta and delta, that it makes your alpha more coherent. And the new finding is that when you rise up into gamma, it makes your alpha, theta, and delta more coherent. Pretty cool, huh? I don't suppose in everyone, but we've got the screens to show that it worked that way for Jace. And then here is the exercise that he suggested. These are artifact markers. So these are the actual event markers, these blue guys. So he's supposed to dive. Well, he was diving, but his gamma was increasing. And the deeper he went, the more his gamma increased. And then at the point where this last marker, you're supposed to rise up into gamma, he went like a shot. He just propelled himself up, went down a little bit and went back up. So basically what I told Jace about his patterns was that he gained coherence in every single, delta, theta, low and mid alpha, as well as even beta and low gamma over the course of the week. And during the bubble, he produced almost 100 hertz evolved mind pattern. And then here, now we're talking about the theta and the delta, which have the extraordinary effect of connecting you with superconsciousness in the field. And then you bring that back in. So it's not just one's experiences, right? It's experiences and the energy that they bring back with them. And then I really like the wise one, and I wanted to show you that one last thing. So check out his pattern on the wise one. This is quite a change from the awakened mind pattern we saw in 64 hertz frequencies to begin with, isn't it? The wise one was the last meditation we did before we broke up and people did brainwave profiles on each other. And this is a stunning 100 hertz gamma synchrony pattern. You can see that as the dissolve into the wise one, this is right where that happened, where his gamma is arising. His alpha does decrease a little bit as he involves himself more in the gamma. And I just took these screenshots because I thought they were so neat. This is where he's integrating with the wise one. He's moving toward an evolved mind top there. Integration continues. There's a 100 hertz evolved mind pattern on the right and a gamma synchrony pattern on the left. And so in the psi states, you know, the brain can do two different things at one time. And then he's meditating on the experience that he had. Now, most of the time you would have come back down into an awakened mind pattern, but instead he went into 100 hertz universal mind, evolved mind consciousness. And now his coherence readings are up, way up, 8.5, and then they're, for all these frequencies, 0.55 and 0.6, all the way up to 100 hertz. So that gave Jace some pretty good landmarks. Coherence is up for low delta, for theta, for high alpha, for low alpha. And basically, the landmark for him is the feelings of love, illumination, and the sense that his guides are all around. That he can re-access these states of consciousness. And that they will give him an access point. So this is just no good. Somebody did a brainwave profile on him. But even during the brainwave profile, it held so that the coherence remained high above that green dotted line for all of those. And it didn't start out that way. It started only with the alpha coherent. And so to look at those patterns, that's where he started. See the gamma increase on the right. And then he moves into these evolved mind bottoms. Now, that would have been pattern on the left would have looked a lot better, except that I backed out to show the big alpha during the awakened mind. So what he gained was a lot of gamma. He gained an awakened mind bottom, evolved mind bottom, formed universal consciousness patterns, and ended up in the wise one with this 100 hertz gamma synchrony pattern, which is really more extraordinary than we're saying here, because you're seeing so many of these patterns, you know. You're seeing 100 hertz gamma synchrony patterns and saying, oh yeah, another gamma hertz gamma synchrony pattern for 100 hertz. Well, that's interesting. Nope, that's magical. That's pure magic. That's a movement outside of the ordinary self into a part of the self that, while remaining ordinary, is connected with something much greater than, something much more beautiful, and not just reaching out. At the same time, that part of you, you're more aware of it, the energy and the information that you have access to in that part of you is transferring down. We say down, across, who knows how it is, but it's transferring, communicated to, and being absorbed by the lower self, so that the lower self's not the lower self anymore. The lower self is moving toward superconsciousness. And we just saw it happen in Jace's brainwaves and basically everybody else's in this program. So I hope that everyone believes that. If you didn't believe it before, that the evidence shown both in the people who had the SAM-supported beats and in the people in Australia who had zip support, who just did it on their own, either because they were so advanced to start with, but also because they advanced during the training. You live different. You're different. And is it good, Jace? Is it a good difference?
What's good, what's bad? You know, it's not a distinction that I make in that context. I think for me, it's beneficial for sure. It's brings in some other wisdom to understand stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's all good, really.
Only someone super conscious would say that, right?
I don't know.
I assure you. Because what we're really talking about with super conscious is non-dual. I mean, if you want to take it out of all mystical and all psi kind of language, and we have to at TMI because they're all so left, well, I don't want to say left brain, but they're all very technical people, very highly educated technical people. I have to dump the whole spirituality word, can't go there at all. It has to go to non-dual, non-physical, non-local awareness, that sort of language. And when you get there, there is no good or bad, but everywhere else there is. So I stand by my statement that your statement was super conscious. Thank you for being so free and open with your brainwaves and your experience during this program, and everybody else who did as well. So this has actually been a 3-hour program, but we can take just a couple of minutes for comments from people and questions.
Judith, this was a wonderful program, and there were questions already in chat message. If you can see from Andre from Germany, are the meditations you're talking about, we're talking about the first part of the program, readily available for us?
I'm so glad you asked that question, Andre, because yes, not the SAM meditations. I'm hoping to get them out to a publisher, and because the binaural beats, the SAM technology, is owned by the Monroe Institute, I can't share those until they hopefully get onto a meditation CD set in public distribution. But I do have these meditations with the voice only, and I would be happy to share any or all of the Superconscious Mind meditations with you. If you want to voice an interest in this program, or send me an email, I can send you a Dropbox link, and you're welcome to do them all. Cosmic Waves, I didn't think was going to get included on that CD set until I tried it the other day and almost went out of body myself. So it's probably going to be a 2 or a 3 CD set. So there's the Matrix, which is about connecting with your biofield and the quantum field and getting some insights. And at the end, from the point of superconscious awareness, doing what is basically an awakened mind meditation of working with a part, but you're working with the part in your superconscious. So it's extremely beneficial. Expansion is about connecting through the light in your heart with the field and traveling around and having some stuff. Information, I already explained the timeline and the wise one. I could send you Cosmic Waves. No, I can't send you Cosmic. So I could send you those 4 in a Dropbox link with the voice only with that, because I own the meditations.
Yeah, I'd love to get some copies of those too. I think it's really valuable for practitioners if we all have similar meditations. If you've developed more meditations than what we use with Anna, sort of the basic things, just so that we can compare notes and see what happens when we use those meditations with other people.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I've been testing them. I tested them with voice only, obviously, because I was looking for glitches and cleaning up editing and stuff. And they all worked beautifully for me. But I have to say that once I listened to them the other day, hooked up here in the house, I did a frontal hookup and I did some back of the head regular hookups. It wasn't that my experience was so much more extraordinary. Yeah, it was. Yeah, my experience was more extraordinary, and there was a lot of gamma. It's hard to say. How do you compare, apples and oranges if you get insights? But I know they work with or without the beats. So hopefully this CD will get published and I can
Great.
send you
Yeah,
beats
I've
too.
done a lot of meditations without any music, so just because the music wouldn't work. So I was forced to just do it without it, but we seem to get similar results anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I was wondering on the Mystic scale that they're using at TMI, is that a standard scale or is that one that they developed themselves?
It's part from, it comes from some psilocybin studies that were done. Stanislaus Grof might have had something to do with this, or some component information in this scale. Oh, here, I've got one right here. I can read it out to you. Post-exercise questionnaire. So it's sort of a patchwork thing. I took a couple of things out of our state 6 on the table of subjective landmarks. And then there were some already in this kind of commonly used scale. So now it is, number 1, the loss of the usual sense of time and space. 2, the experience that consciousness during this exercise was more real than your normal awareness. So you can see you're going to be pretty high to have anything on this mystical scale. 3, a sense that the experience cannot be adequately described in words. 4, the experience of pure awareness. 5, the experience of unity with something larger than yourself. 6, a sense of awe or reverence. 7, the experience of bliss or indefinable peace. 8, sensation of being surrounded in light. 9, feelings of universal love. 10, you are convinced that you encountered ultimate reality. How do you grade them? It's really difficult, because somebody who circles number 10, ultimate reality, gets a mystical score of 1. I mean, we really need to figure out some better way to do it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, Stanislav, as you know, had, I think, 26 different non-ordinary states, and all of those states are related to theta-delta crossovers in one way or another, which I had categorized at one point. I have some slides on that, but
Theta-delta or alpha-theta?
Theta and delta. In fact, as delta changes, it changes the type of experience that people are having, and whether or not they're going deeper into all of the different categories. He had, like I say, 26 different categories of non-ordinary experience. So yeah, I'd have to go back through my notes on that. In fact, I was looking for that categorization the other day, and I can't seem to find what I did with it. But it's around someplace.
I'd love to see the correlations to the brainwaves. That would be fantastic.
I can send you a group of slides that I have that more or less covers that in brief, just sort of summary.
I would love that, because you showed those to me in Lyon, and I didn't take a picture of them. I just drew them on a tablet, and I would love to see the slides instead.
Okay, yeah, I can see if I can put those together, and I don't know, just put a zip file on them and send them to you.
Or either, you know what, if it's in a PowerPoint, it'll just go straight through email.
Yeah, I could do that, I think. have to play with it.
All right, thank you. Thank you. So anybody have any other questions about this? I hope it didn't overwhelm you. I certainly knew it might.
I had a question, and it was interesting to hear about all these extraordinary experiences that meditators had when they were at these conferences. And and see how it correlated with the brain waves. And I admit a lot of it's over my head. I didn't really understand all the connections. But what I was wondering is if it's too distracting to use a clicker, if there's any kind of experience a person could be possibly expecting to have, and then they could click, and then you would have a definite time from then when it happened that you correlate with the brain waves. And I was just wondering if you've ever tried using the clicker in this context.
Well, not really, because although this would be desperate to have it, because EEG is in, sensors are in every single one of the ports, and there's no space for the manual trigger button. But I do have the hub, and my 200 hertz sensors are supposed to come in this week. I'm very excited about it. If I can get the hub working, then I will be able to hook up 4 people at the same time and have each of them on EEG, GSR, BVP, and a manual trigger button. So that is the hope. That is exactly. I mean, you really put your finger on it. That would be the key. Although I will have to say that I did use a manual trigger button in some of my testing of these Superconscious Mind meditations. And I did remember what one marker went, but when you're that high, it's it's like some kind of cosmic soup, you know. You don't necessarily remember what you were doing at that point. But for pure, I know I hit a big cosmic experience and put that clicker in. Yeah, it's great if people can do it. But then you see, the thing is, you get to this state 6 on the table of subjective landmarks. I had this guy come in one time, and he said, no, I have to have the clicker. So I gave him the manual trigger button. And I was watching him during this meditation. It was one, and I think it was a Kundalini meditation. And he never clicked that button one single time. And afterwards I said, well, I thought you were going to click the button when you got to a place, so nothing really happened? And he said, oh no. He said, I just got to a state 6 that nothing matters other than just being. So he didn't care about the clicker.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of, is that maybe there really wouldn't be any kind of extraordinary experience. Maybe they're mutually exclusive. If you're in that state, you don't care about doing the manual trigger button anymore.
Yeah, because it's pure experience. And non-duality. So if you have to go, oh, I had a funny experience like that one time with this healer in Philadelphia. And I'd worked with this guy before, and he was hooked up to the old mind mirror, and so was I. And we were each on one mind mirror 3, a separate computer. But my computer and mind mirror connection had failed. And this guy was sending this gold light into me. I knew I was recording fine on him, but I knew my brainwaves wouldn't be recorded. It was only going to show on the console of the mind mirror. And this golden light, I mean, I was just in this absolute bliss. I was just leaving all awareness. And my ego said, open your eyes and look down at the mind mirror. And I went, no. Open your eyes and look down at the mind mirror. No. But then finally it kept bugging me enough that I did somehow manage to open my eyes, and I saw this gorgeous evolved mind pattern on me and a gorgeous evolved mind pattern on him too. So yeah, you get to where the last thing you want to do is lose the state. I mean, Dorothy, you know that, right? You said that in your post-exercise questionnaires for several meditations.
Yeah. There's no way I could have clicked a clicker in those.
Jim too, Jace too, all of you guys, right? That's just, oh, I'm starting to feel that way myself. It's a good thing I don't have a clicker. Yeah, okay, so any other questions? Steve or anybody else? Comments?
This is Doug. I have one question. I'm just beginning to get acquainted with your work and the mind mirror. I've read some of the background material, and one question that just popped up in me now was, I've been to the Monroe Institute many times as well, so I know that kind of processing and so forth. But I was curious if the mind mirror can be used as, in any way, as real-time neurofeedback processing, like quantitative EEG is sometimes used, to see what's going on for yourself at any given moment. Because I don't know if that's possible when you're tranced out, for instance.
Yeah, so that's where you would have to use the training summary, I mean the self-training program, where you would be hearing the audio cues. And then you would, if you're going to go into a high state, you would definitely want to put the gong sound on and not the music, so that it's playing very quietly in the background and won't make you lose your state. But if all is one, maybe the gong is part of it. But yeah, it does have a self-training program. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people.
And one second quick question. Has anyone tracked a holotropic breathwork session in the Stangroff method?
Not as far as I know. Okay. Gary, have you? You know that stuff better than I do.
No, I haven't actually hooked anybody up while they're doing holotropic. I've done that myself, so I know that there's some pretty dramatic changes that occur, but I wasn't hooked up at the time. And I was in a group of, dozens of people. I should have had something there to hook them up with, but this is before the Mind Mirror 6. We were still working with a 3 then, so it was not something I even thought about doing.
We would love to see it done, but the one thing we would have to wonder if it would work is because the breathing could create artifact. And then sometimes people are lying down for it, aren't they?
Yeah, you're lying down. Actually, the breathing is fairly gentle.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's just a sort of like a gentle hyperventilation that you're doing. They do, if you're working with Stan, he does do a lot of shamanic drumming along with it, which drives it at a theta rhythm. But I haven't worked with him, so I don't know exactly what his workshops are like.
It'd be worth checking. A lot of people are interested also in checking to see what brainwaves would look like on DMT or mushrooms and stuff like that. I mean, there's a ton of things for us to.
Well, I would suggest anybody that's interested in that look to Robin Carhart-Harris in England, who's doing all the research on psilocybin and MRIs, fMRIs, and EEG, and they have some very good research on the brainwave patterns under psilocybin and LSD and ayahuasca. I don't know if they do ayahuasca, DMT maybe. So that they're very interesting, So it's Robin Carthart, Carthart-Harris, Carthart-Harris.
Okay, I'll check her out. Of course, what we want to see it is on the mind mirror.
Actually, it's a he.
Oh, a he.
Yeah, we expect Robin to be here to be, a girl, but in England, Robin is a boy's name.
Right.
Christopher Robin sort of thing.
Right. Good movie, by the way. Wonderful. Yeah. So, do you have any way to check that? I mean, if you had a mind mirror, do you do that sort of therapy?
Me?
No, the questioner.
Oh, Doug.
Doug, thank you.
I could check something. I have I'm not in touch with the holotropic breathwork community anymore, but I do have a sister in California who's a psychiatrist, and she is part of a growing movement to try to get the use of some of these psychotropic agents into the office for practice, like Stan was doing originally. And so they've had training sessions and so forth. It's all very kind of, we've not talked about at this point, But one thing she is doing now regularly, and a number of psychiatrists are, is running ketamine sessions, therapeutic ketamine sessions in the office. And it would be readily possible to monitor that. I do have a mind mirror. I haven't learned how to use it yet, but plan to. And I think
that Doug, hello.
Hi.
I'm in California. I could hook up with her.
I'll suggest it to her. Yeah, thank you very much.
Sure, great.
Doug, do I see an EFT book on your bookshelf?
Oh dear.
I think I do.
Yes, there was. Oh yeah, that's from a session I did at ICEAM.
So that's another.
Gary Craig. That's from Gary Craig's site, I think.
Actually, I was just speaking to Gary Craig this morning.
Oh.
And we've done a lot of work with him, and he has some idea about, he wants to hook EFT people up on, I haven't had a chance to get back to him. We've sort of been playing phone tag, but I think he wants to do something with his new version of EFT that he's working on.
Great.
Another point of connection between you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
it's also very interesting.
There's a lot of interesting people these days, don't you guys find? What a great time to be alive and super conscious, or heading toward it. I want to thank all of you for attending. And, I realized that this program was going to run long, and I hope it wasn't a problem for anybody, and that the technical parts appealed to you and were helpful. I tried to bring in some coherence windows and show that it's really real. Our theory is real. The awakened mind theory is real. And that, most importantly, that little meditative writing I read at the beginning, that's real too. And we hope to see you again soon. Take care, and thank you for being here.